There.
Take 3. Hopefully this time it works. Brett?
Yes, he won't bloody answer me, but he keeps trying to call you. Does he not realize I'm with you?
So I'm giving it just a little bit to see if it jumps back to... No, I'm not going to go live on YouTube. No, Jen.
What?
We just passed Jen's work.
Oh.
No, Jen. So that means she's busy doing something or at home or headed to work. Yeah, we wouldn't have had time to wait for Brett. I don't care how many times he keeps trying to call. By the time he tried to call the first time, we wouldn't have had time to wait. So what I'm probably gonna do is lay down outside PC. That's where we're headed. But maybe go in for a little while.
Hi.
And then
What?
head in a little while later. So
What?
I'm streaming right now just because
Why
there's
were
only
you alone?
so much time that I
Hi.
can
Mom's talking on the thing.
stream. So there's only, my body period only has so much time it really will work. So we are still combating the loss of muscle that happened because of...
Apparently Brett was alone at work today.
Oh, well. So, it's looking positive. So I'm letting Mindy go in first. And going from there. So, some things I said before. If you work at JBS and you're having issues or whatever, I know they had some problems with paychecks. Don't hesitate to get a hold of union president. Because I know they're working on it. Or trying to work on it. Not that they can completely fix it, but they do know there were issues. And now, I know last time I was on, I said I was going to talk to you guys about, or I think last time I was on, I said I'd talk to you about my solutions. Because it's never a complaining with without solutions helps no one. So, some of my solutions. One is that we need review boards or something so that, hi Steph, good to see ya. We need review boards or something in every state so that not just not just for police. That's what repeatedly is. Well, okay, that's not good stuff. I hate strep. I've been for the first years of my adult life, I actually was bad enough that eventually we had to have my tonsils out. So, yeah, I don't like strep. I totally get how miserable it is. And even after we had my tonsils out, I do have to still be a little bit more aware. So I still need Hermione, and I knew I needed the potion. Okay, so my idea. Review boards for all government agencies. And I think, and this may be considered sacrilegious or ridiculous or over the top, but I think one, so here's my things on who I think should be reviewed. One, any person that has over a certain percentage of stopping people or looking into people or anything like that of certain races. So, if you're someone over and you're pulling over more Hispanics or blacks or white or Asian or whatever, then, so like with whites in Utah, they are, I think it said 60 or 70% of the population. I think it's 60 to 70% only because of the number of Hispanics we have here. So let me make that clear. I know people who be aware the number of Hispanics. A lot of people will count them in with whites, and I've gone into that. I went into that in the last video, in the last stream, because they are them here in Utah. So that's why I'm saying that. So if there's more than, let's say there's 70% white, then if there's more than, like, if a cop 90%, or let's say 70% of his area is white, then if he's 90% of the people he pulls over are white, then exist in his area. That's a pretty high number. So is he picking on whites? So you pull a random sampling of the people he's pulled over and why he's pulled over, and basically have him have it determined, have it looked at, is he actually being racist towards whites? Now, let's say Hispanics, let's say there's 30% Hispanic. Well, that's a lot less number, so if you're getting 15% more, then maybe that should be looked at. Maybe not 20%. Now, let's say there's a 1%. Well, then it needs to be looked at maybe at 5 or 10%. Because you could have one person of a certain race, and there's only that one person in the whole county, but that one person is repeatedly breaking laws. Well, then you're going to have that person repeatedly looked at. That's why you don't just automatically slam the book at, oh, look, they've got this many more. We need to immediately send them in for training. Have it looked at. Have it reviewed. That's all I'm saying is a review. Anyone who's afraid of people looking at their numbers, to me that says that if they do not feel comfortable with someone looking at what they're doing, then maybe what they're doing isn't right. Now, that also includes, like, let's say, DCFS. Are they investigating? Even if they're continuously closing, are they investigating a certain color more? Or a certain race more? And that needs looked at. Now, the next portion, so that's just the beginning. That's just, they've been pulled over and given a warning. Maybe a minor fine, investigated lightly but nothing done, etc. Things that are inconvenience but not a significant disruption to a person's life. If the next step, I feel, would be a significant disruption to a person's life. Not a permanent, but just a significant disruption. Maybe DCFS opens a case against someone. Maybe a person is charged with something that's then later dropped. And with this, then you start looking at, also you look at so you're looking at charges are submitted to the DA, plus if the DA puts out a charge against someone. Because the DA and the police could be in cahoots. And it may sound bad, because one thing I can say with this is the more paperwork someone has to fill out, and if they are afraid they're going to be investigated, some people just won't act. Well, if you're going to threaten to take someone to court it's a disruption to that person's life. That person then feels they have to go get a lawyer, even if it's court appointed, etc. So anything that causes a significant disruption to a person's life automatically results in a review. That includes if a defense attorney gets someone to plead guilty. And it includes reviewing the judgments of a judge. Which means a disruption to someone's life. And those disruptions, they get looked at, but you don't necessarily have to suspend someone while you look at it. Now, major, like extreme disruptions. So we're talking someone is not just charged, but is thrown in jail. Someone their car's impounded. The information, including name, is passed to newspapers. Children are taken from their families. Someone is sent to jail. Well, by sent to jail, I mean charged, goes through the process. The judge sends them to jail, or they go to jail because of plea bargaining, etc. So let's say someone, in that case, someone is arrested and they actually bail, or they don't get put in jail immediately, but the DA decides there's enough charges. They go into court and the case is they are sentenced to jail for whatever happened. The judge, the defending attorney, the prosecuting attorney or DA, and the policeman, all an immediate review is taken. And at that point also, the policeman is, if possible, put on administrative leave, or at least it's made aware that every case that he does be reviewed is because you obviously are going to have a certain number of people who have to go to jail. There's no question there. And so you couldn't have your judges put on administrative leave automatically because they said someone needed to go to jail. But at the same time, if they knew every case that they reviewed after that, until the review was every case they had until the review was completed would be looked at, they might look at, are there other options that may not be as disruptive to a person's life that may fit this crime better. And that's part of it, is also, I think, a review of, or encouraging would be beneficial. But I say that because you may have a police officer that's stopping the right number of people, but then the ones that he presses charges against, or he forwards charges to the DA for lean more to one race or the other because of that hidden racism or racism, etc. He's here in Cache Valley trying to get people to plead guilty to things that they aren't even guilty of. And basically saying, well, I'm not going to cover you. I'm not going to be your defense attorney if you won't plead guilty. And so you need to plead guilty because they're going to convict you of this anyway, even if there's zero signs of that and there's proof that it never happened. And yet, well, that's just the way they call it, so just plead guilty. Even though then they charge you, or then he's also having you plead guilty to the very same thing. That needs noticed. And if a defense attorney knows as soon as that happens, they're going to be investigated, they may be more likely to fight for less convictions. Because now all of a sudden they have to show and prove that they weren't racist in that case. And why they had the person plead guilty. And etc. So who do I think should be on the boards? One, regular people. We have all these people who are set, everyone is supposed to register or is in the jury pool. Pull from the jury pool. Period. If people knew that they would have the chance to review for racism, and that when you take a case to court in front of a jury, no one looks for racism. In all cases with DCFS, there's no option of a jury. That's not even given. So DCFS can be in cahoots with the DA's office and with the responsible to a group of regular people and so it's not just regular people I'm going to recommend on the review board, but you do need regular people on it. Because if it's a random person, there's no way, if you have a few random people, there is no way you're going to be able to be in cahoots with every single of your random people. Police officers have a pool that's nominated by a group, by the police union, by the police, and by the police chief that can be pulled from. Now, this pool can be from anywhere in a certain vicinity. So it's not just so in Salt Lake, a certain vicinity. And you make sure there's a big enough area that you can have, that you can make sure that the policeman that's on the review board is not a co-worker of doctors, maybe not accept. Well, and even doctors would be helpful, because doctors, if you're for those hospitals that provide free care, if a doctor orders someone to a mental hospital or puts on Munchausen by proxy on a person's chart, those are looked at because those cause significant difference in care. Different things like that. If the care they provide is, if they do one of these that makes it governmental or public funding, if they're a smaller, like a doctor's office, whatever, that's not as significant because there's other places people can go. Or people that get a significant portion of government money, etc., has this. And they can be the people on the board, obviously, lay people, someone from there that understands why someone may have made a decision, part of it. And you make sure that the lay people have more than the professionals. And you could have one person who's paid and used to review boards, knows how they work to be able to guide the review board. You could have a professional and you could have 3 lay people. That's going to be a lot harder to deceive than, say, a professional, just a review board, especially one that's in connection with whatever it is. So I'm